Once upon a time, political economists actually discussed what value is. They discussed land, capital, labor, utility, and purpose. And they discussed who actually are the value creators in society and how we should account and recognize for their contributions. And then along the way, we actually just replaced this with, like, this whole discussion with a simple formula where it said profit equals value. Everything that is profitable was valuable, and if it wasn't, it didn't really value much. And I'm lucky now that I don't actually have to convince anyone anymore that this is just plainly wrong. And if you want to understand the details about this argument, you can read the book, The Value of Everything, where Marina Mazzucato, a UCL professor, laid out how we kind of blurred the lines between value extraction and value creation, and how we kind of undervalue shared infrastructure, care work, open source infrastructure, and many other things that we actually really value in society. The hopeful case for kind of the emergent technologies that we are working on is, for me, that we can actually work on this and have a real discussion again, what is value in the society, and then link that together with the financial allocations of resources. So, and I think this is actually one of the most important things that we could work on, and I think we really should emphasize this as a challenge for kind of the financial system that we are kind of rebuilding right now. From my perspective, there's actually like a fairly simple recipe. We have to identify the work that is supposed to be impactful. We have to then say, okay, what do we actually know about the work? What are the objective measurements that we know about it, about the output and the outcomes? Then we have to add subjective evaluations, judgments about this work and the outcomes. Do we actually value it as a society? Do some groups value it and others don't? We actually want to know those things. And then if we know it, we can redirect financial flows towards the things that we actually collectively value. At the Hypercerts Foundation, where I'm the director and the founder of, we actually want to contribute to this with like one kind of simple building block. This building block are Hypercerts. Hypercerts, in the essence, are just a digital record of who did what, when, and where. So fairly simple, just a record of the work. And this is important because that allows us to say, this was this work, this was a different work, it's not overlapping, so we don't get later on into double spending and other problems. So this is like the key component. It's kind of an anchor for the whole discussion that then is happening in the second step. In the second step, we can submit attestations and evaluations and additional data to the work that has been identified. And then the thing that we are actually like pretty good at, building financial instruments, directing the flows of capital to these things that we have identified. So what Hypercerts are not a full new funding mechanisms. It's more a primitive to build impact funding networks. Impact funding networks are then based on kind of the Hypercerts on the bottom, then the open evaluation system, which is important because nobody is just in full control of who can submit evaluations and additional data. Then we have multiple different funding platforms. I will go more into hypercerts.org and ecocertain.xyz, but also MarEarth is building on top of Hypercerts to fund regenerative land projects. And we also have connected Hypercerts with Gitcoin. And then there are a bunch of projects that actually are in control of their own Hypercerts and have kind of the ability to receive the evaluations. And the platforms are not in control of this data because it's a shared data layer across different platforms, which really makes this a funding network. All right, let's actually look at how this looks. And Ecocertain has been built by Gainforest, David and Shafi are actually in the audience. Big shout out to them. Here we see a bunch of land projects from the Gainforest community, and we will pick just one, the bees and trees. What we can see there is also the map. It's a project in Uganda. Then we will further down see further information, the description of the work, a proof of impact. This is like one of the evaluations that has been added to the Hypercert by the project themselves. Below we also saw some supporters, and now we are kind of buying parts of this Hypercert for 10 USD. And then the process is basically like buying an NFT, so very simple in that way. And then when we complete the transaction, we actually can look at the Hypercerts that we own. And so this is also a mechanism where when we tokenize the impact, now people can actually own the impact and can communicate to their stakeholders what they have contributed to either financially or with their work. So this is, in that way, just like one of the platforms building on top of Hypercerts. And then why this is a funding network is that we can now go to hypercerts.org, which basically is just a different front end to the same shared database about these impact assets. We see the same Hypercert here. The last row is actually the address with which I bought the Hypercert. Also in the profile here, we see in the marketplace that we bought this Hypercert, and we can go further down and also buy more on this platform. So this is really similar to, suppose you could watch YouTube videos on different front ends, you could buy Amazon products on different front ends, and it really takes away the platform power. So, and in this case, I think this is really important, because if we want to build kind of impact markets or different governance mechanisms, how to distribute funds to impactful projects, no platform should actually be in like full control over your data. And there's like a recent anecdote of a friend of mine. She runs a business and Google just suspended her account. So she lost all her reputation from the work that she has done. And this shouldn't happen to impactful projects. They should be in control of their reputation in this way. I just showed it now for the buying process, but it's the same for when we look at here the additional information. This is the information that you also saw on ecocertain.xyz. We see it here on the right side, and also the evaluations and the additional data. So it's really like a shared database of impact assets. And here, this is how you can create a basic evaluation. Then the third part, Hypercerts for Nature Steward, is around that we ran with Gainforce, or Gainforce was actually leading this round in Gitcoin round 23, and all the projects that raised funds on Gitcoin then distributed some parts of their Hypercerts to the donors, the Gitcoin donors, and then also the matching funds were distributed based on buying Hypercerts. So this is kind of like just a first view on what we imagine, because we imagine many more platforms that can integrate with this, either new platforms or existing platforms. We also want to integrate like Web 2 platforms that we really have a shared database about what actually happened, like what is the good that happened in the world, and having this discussion about what is it that we value out in the public. And then we also believe that this is not only something for regenerative work, but it's also something for journalism, for open source software, for community service, and many other domains that are today underfunded. So ultimately, we really don't want to have data silos for these impact funding mechanisms. We don't want to have excessive platform power. And what is also important for this infrastructure would be AI ready already, because we basically just would need to replace kind of the mechanism here, and then kind of allocation mechanisms that build on this data can link the projects with the shared infrastructure. And this is important because today already, whoever applied to a grant already knows like you use an AI to help you. On the other side, the funders are kind of today already kind of doing a first screen with the help of AI. Taking this 2 steps further, we will have just AI agents talking to each other about like what is it that should be funded. And in the hopeful case, we actually get rid of the marketing narratives of funding because the AI just like doesn't care about it and because it can see it and everybody has a good narrative. And then it's important, what is actually the verifiable data underlying this, where AI agents can make real decisions on what is your reputation that you have built up over time. Then what we are working on today is Hypercerts v2. I don't have time to get into it, but we need to simplify this further. This is what we want to work on. If you want to work on this as well, if you want to get involved, or if you want to build on top of it and have requirements for this, please get in touch. You have a little bit more information on the bottom right about Hypercerts v2. Thank you.